So, good morning, good evening. We are hosting this a very important webinar today, and situation has, taken place like this that we have to host it all of a sudden. So, this is the best example as to how you need to change your roles. So, we ourselves are now, all of a sudden, we had to change everything, and now we are all set. So at the very onset, I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Shabi Zaidi and the entire team of SIVU for giving us this opportunity of doing this webinar on understanding leadership in health professions education. Today's webinar, it is a little, what I find it very overwhelming, because all of you who are today with us attending this webinar are all leaders in your own fields. And so we're just trying to go through, the literature and share with you some of the understanding, whatever we have been able to understand regarding the leadership, and also share a few examples to demonstrate whatever we have tried to understand. So leadership, you all know that it involves so many aspects. As you can say, it is guidance, solution, vision, teamwork, and so on, so forth. So today's objectives are mainly that at the end of this session, that participants shall be able to understand the differences between leadership and management, discuss the need for leadership training, understand basic principles of leadership, derive skills to be honed by health professionals, and align effective leadership skills with the context. As you all see that world over, whether it is CanMeds or American Council, Australian Medical Council, or NHS, or from India, our own NMC, all have shown leadership as one of the core competencies. So why we thought that we should talk on this, because during pandemic and in coming years, we saw that there are all the roles are shifting and new leaders are being born every day. So with this introduction, I would like to give the platform to Sucheta, and she's going to take you further. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farzana. So let me ask all of you a question. What is it that makes some people leaders? Are leaders born? Do these leaders have specific characteristics? Do they show some specific behavior? These are some questions that I'm asking you to ponder over as we go on in this webinar. Now, looking at the definition of leadership, Eisenhower, way back in 1990, said leadership is the ability to get a person to do what you want him to do, when you want it done, in a way you want it done, because he wants to do it. Look at the play of words here. I want all of you to look at these words and let me know what how what all of you are thinking a little later. Let us look at the definition of management. Management is the process of designing and maintaining an environment in which individuals working together in groups efficiently accomplish selected aims. So, what I want to ask is, did you see any differences in the definitions? Or are leadership and management two sides of the same? That is what all of us need to think about. So when it comes to leadership and management, we see that managers use positive power and they think from the head. So the managers are, are tough-minded and they're problem-solving and they're persistent. Whereas leaders are thought to use their personal power and they think from the heart. So they are flexible, they're creative, and they're courageous, and at the same time, they can be imaginative. So you can see that there's a thin line, but yet my question still continues for you to ponder upon, is our leadership and management parts of the same coin? So leadership is the driving force, energy, or power that establishes and communicates vision and direction, helping to influence and motivate people making a change. And that is what will lead to organizational success. There are, if you Google, you will see so many theories on leadership. You have the great man theories, beginning from the great man theories to transactional leadership, transformation leadership, all this being put into graphs to say that first you use this, a situational leadership, then you move on to transactional, and you move on to transformational. So the list is absolutely unending. I'm not going to go into details of this, but what happened in 2010 was Frank et al., all of us are aware, who are from the health professions education, have seen this path-breaking paper from the Lancet, where they talk about health professionals for a new century, transforming education to strengthen health systems in an interdependent world. And what do we see here? We saw 3 generations of reforms, right from science-based to system-based, and then from a scientific curriculum which was university-based, we have now moved to a system-based curriculum which is competency-driven and involving health education system. So there have been successive levels of learning. We began with informative, acquiring knowledge and skills, and we tried to make our students, or we ourselves tried to become experts. It then moved on to being formative, socializing students around values. We tried to make professionals, but now we are trying to transform people, transform by developing leadership attributes and become enlightened so that all of us, all the stakeholders, can become change agents. So leadership is required at so many levels. You have intrapersonal leadership, where networking and understanding the weaknesses and strengths are necessary. There is interpersonal leadership, which works on building credibility. Then there is the complex leadership, which is needed to the organization, which is system-based, and it needs adaptive leadership. And we move on to the global level, where accountability, advocacy, activism, all these aspects will come into play. So are we thinking of such a big global picture? Or don't we know that in any context, be it in a team, be it in a class, be it in a meeting, be it services or any programs, you find that, or a community of practice, you find that leadership is something that is needed. So we have leaders, we have managers, and we have followers. You will see that these are, we've got arrows everywhere. Why? Because they can be interchanged with each other. And most of the time, the leaders set the vision. The managers are needed to set the activities into practice and identify the problems and help solve and help get the solution. And we need the followers. But when we need the followers, they need to be active and effective. And at the same time, we don't want followers who are yes men or yes women, but we want people who will ask the right questions, essential for the smooth running of anything. And that is what we are looking for. So not just building up a leadership or a management people, we need to also instill into our followers a certain amount of trust, which will help us to move on. So under the normal circumstances, leadership has been used for improvement, or when there are problems, or even when there are situations which are status quo. You know, when there's nothing happening, everything is at a standstill, there is one person who says, let us go back and think and let us set something right. So that is the test of the true leadership, where the person will bring in change, and it is stimulated from within. However, there has been a situation which all of us have faced also, imposed in situations like the pandemic or some unprecedented crisis. You could have constantly changing environment. All of us face that, and a lot of uncertainty. So a leader comes into being to maintain the well-being and the stability of a particular system. So health professions, as health professions, we've seen two parts of the pendulum. You have the education, which involves the students, the patients, and the community. And you have the healthcare delivery system, where you have the patients and the community also. What did we face? We faced curriculum reforms, there were complex health scenarios, administrative burden, technology mastering, increased documentation, and heightened expectations. And we were all forced into role based upon excellence, expertise, service, etc. Despite are my slides available, Asim?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Forced into leadership role based upon excellence, expertise, service, etc., despite limited experience. That means we need to also hone our young ones, our young people also into being taking up leadership roles. And this will prevent high levels of burnout, reduced engagement, and decreased professional fulfillment, so that everyone feels a part of the system. So let me ask you the next question. Do we really need to train people for leadership roles? Do we need to make them aware? I was just thinking, and I Googled about the leadership training programs, and I found that all the Ivy League colleges and everyone, so many of them, all of them were offering leadership programs. And let me tell you, there were two. There was a leadership program and there were management programs also, showing that what I said in the earlier, are they parts of the same coin? Perhaps not, because you need to be good managers as well, and you need to be leaders as well. So we need to see that in order to maintain well-being and stability and promoting professional fulfillment, we need to be trained. So with that, and with that thought process, I hand over to Neema.
Thank you, Dr. Sucheta, and good evening, good morning to everyone. As Sucheta mentioned, there is no model of single model of effective leadership, and each person is unique in his or her strengths, attributes, as well as weaknesses. When we were searching the literature and trying to find out various models, we came across 3 recently published papers. One on the adaptive leadership by Judy Matthews and the team, and all these are multi-author and from different regions. It has been published as an AMI guide. The second one was Wellness Center Leadership, and that is by Ted Shanfeld, and that is from Stanford School of Medicine. And the third paper was from our India, and our own teacher and senior education is from India, Dr. Balchandra Adukoli, he published a paper on S5 formula for leadership development. So we would like to share with you elements of each of these papers to answer the questions what Sucheta was posing. The first paper or the first article that Amigai is mainly meant for the HPE educators who wish to become leaders, and especially in the circumstances which we have faced recently, lots of uncertainty, lots of challenges, the change was sudden, too rapid, and it was a period like it has become almost like a constant, change is constant, like that sort of thing. And in this paper, all the leadership attributes have been discussed, skills have been discussed, but they have provided a very good framework, the framework of 4 levels, which Sucheta has told you earlier. The one as an intrapersonal level, that is for self. So one has to think what one should do in various situations. May that be normal, it may be the challenging one. One should try to inspect our own assumptions, regulate the thoughts as well as the feelings, and understand the others and accept their viewpoints as well. So mentoring others to maximize their potential and productivity is essential. It means in a nutshell that what we are have to do is to develop the skills of emotional and social intelligence. The second model is the interpersonal. It is you are working with the your relation with the others around you, and that is how it is building up the credibility. Has to be all. It has to be all inclusive, and it has to. You should create an environment where the people will feel very protective, comfortable, and it should be. You should make them sense like you are there for them. So there is emotional intelligence, social intelligence will come, but it will stress on the team building. It will stress on the different approaches, which will sharing of power, making an inclusive outlook. All these things will come into it. The third level, that is the complex organizational system level, where the adaptive leadership will come. Now, what is integral to this adaptive leadership? So if you look into the elements of adaptive leadership, it is first and foremost is a critical thinking. One should try to understand what is the one should try to understand what are the people and system around you, how they are working. One should have the wider perspective, and sometimes maybe the multiple perspectives are needed. With a foresight has to be there, and one should build on invest on collaborations. There has to be human connect, but at the same time, one should be flexible and agile to adapt. It takes a lot of time, things to make a decision, because in many times, this type of complex organizational system, when you are working over there, there may be many options. So you have to make the critical options, select the right one, and and then build upon that. And many times, you have to decide what one should preserve, which is the key element in that organization. Whether there are people who are important, whether the principles are important, that the leader should be able to make out. The next level is a global level. This is at a level where there are many organizations may come up, but the leader has a capacity to think beyond the usually what we say, this is my limitations, or these are my control levels. So usually the leaders over here, they go beyond that, they transcend that. And that requires the engagement of number of people in it. So usually this is driven by the core values and the passion for cause. And as we see in many times, these people, we say that they are activists, but all these things comes because you really want to make a change and you want to get the people surrounding you, not only in your organization, but all over. The next model, is a wellness-centered leadership, which has been described by Schanfeld. And this is mainly for the healthcare provider. So who are healthcare providers? And they have, the team has shown the interconnection between the leadership behavior. So the foundation of this is the care about people as well. I know. One second, I will add it. Sorry. So no, it has been mentioned that when you want to care about people, always start learning to care about yourself, because if you can't do that, then it will be very the leaders who don't take care of themselves, they have a poor impact on the leadership performance. He has recommended that there has to be a good lifestyle management for that. Now, when you are talking about the caring about the people, you try to nurture them and then their professional development, and you should have empathy from them. Now, it also tells you that the second level as a cultivate relationship. Cultivate relationship with your team members, but consider them as an individual one. So when you are considering as a individual one, remember they may be having some unique needs. And also you have to make them a sense and that there is an interdependency in the team. So that team culture has to also evolve. Try to develop the collective vision and take the sense, shared sense for the purpose so that everyone will work towards a common goal. But the most critical part of this is the topmost one, that is inspiring the change. And this inspiring the change can come only when you are able to develop the sense of community. When you allow the people to grow, to take decisions, and sometimes you will have to give them the co-ownership of their work. So it is like an intrinsic motivator. The next model which comes is the S5 formula. That is actually, it is a developmental process of becoming a leader. And here, Dr. Adkoli has given a background of Indian philosophy and ancient wisdom. So for each of these, he has given a terminology which is in Sanskrit. So the leader should be able to set a goal which is at a higher level, and not only at a higher level, it should be for the benefit of the others. And he should have a firm resolution that whatever may come, whatever the odds or failures are there, he will pursue that. There should be self-study or swadhyay. So the self-awareness, self-assessment, reflective practices are the integral part of it. In this particular phase of self-study, one has to imbibe certain values. One has to learn technical as well as soft skills and adopt, again, he has emphasized on the healthy lifestyle. You have to work with the people around you, and this model also says that collaborations are necessary and support from the community has to be taken. And once you have this self-study and synergy, then you start giving the service with the people. And this is a selfless service, and therefore it is been termed as seva in Sanskrit. And the purpose is what you are doing is for people and for that particular cause. But the most important thing in this particular model is the last one, and that is surrender, which is called in Sanskrit as a samarpan. Now, when we say surrender, that means you, after achieving the goal, don't cling on to those things again. You should be show the exhibitors or show the humility, and you should train your next generation, share your expertise with them.
in Sanskrit, that Samarpan has got a still deeper meaning. It is you are offering back to the instrument. You shouldn't feel that change has occurred because of it. You should be saying that you are just the instrument to that particular change. So what are the common features in all these models? First is a self-awareness, self-regulation, and reflective practices. The second is a relationship management, active listening, empathy, all those things will come over here. Empowering the people to grow and nurture. Critical thinking, prioritization, then seeking contribution from the others, selecting right option, intellectual humility, and transparent communication. And also the core values. All of them, they have talked about the truthfulness, trustworthiness, honesty, empathy, compassion, all should be there. And there should be the collaboration and team building, networking. Your leadership has to be inclusive. The wellness paper as well as Dr. Arpali's paper both emphasize on the personal wellness. Dr. Arpali has given this what is mentioned in our Indian wisdom that your main to take care of your body is a main duty. Both of them they have mentioned that exercise, healthy food habits, rest, sleep, breaks, all those are needed. And I already told you about the surrender. Try to detach from what once you have done particular thing and pass the baton to your next generation. So the leadership training, the theories, concepts, whatever models are there, they will broaden your viewpoint, and they have to be there and be a part of that leadership program where you will try to emphasize on the skills, some tasks, and building up the professional credibility. But once you start applying that in practice, there the vertical growth will start. And there your practical wisdom and whatever the reflective practices you have from the challenging experiences, what you develop becomes the more important thing. So from being a leader, you be a leader. And this takes, according to all the three papers, very, very long time. In fact, it can, you have to start getting some skills right from your child. With this, and after sharing these different, the three different papers and key elements, now we would like to showcase you some select examples of how the leadership attributes come into different situations. And with this, I invite Dr. Farzana to share with you university perspective.
So, thank you, Sucheta and Nima, for taking along all of us along this journey. And you have made my entire job very, very easy, because you have really tried to touch upon all the points in such a short span of time. So I'm just here to share with you certain experiences from the perspective of a university, which I'm heading at Lucknow. So these, I would just want to share with you as to how things, shaped up as I moved along my career, and how slowly from being a follower and then becoming a manager, and then finally still trying to learn leadership skills from all my seniors, all veterans in this field. So this is just to show that there was once we started this medical college, and then time came that we had to start the university, what I thought that I should have, we were trying and aiming to build a university where, teaching standards and were very high. So we tried to, there was a lacunae which I could see that how will I head an institution, or how will I be part of the teams if I myself will not be trained enough or knowing enough. So I was inspired to take up the FAMER Fellowship. I applied, and in the year 2013, as part of the FAMER training, I established this cost-effective skill lab for the undergraduate training of clinical skills. It was not only at that time to start the lab, but also to include clinical skill training into the curriculum of MBBS students, because at that time there was not much being done as far as training of the clinical skills was in the as far as in the skill labs was concerned. So the journey started, and then with the firm resolution, we just carried out and tried to build a team where we had uh, undergraduate students, we were giving training to undergraduates, residents, and then later on, along with the with the opening of the university, we started giving training to all the allied health professionals and others. And in 2019, when the CBME curriculum was started, the NMC gave us the guidelines to establish this curriculum. We saw that the establishment of clinical skill lab was one of an essential element. And we being the pioneers in setting up of the lab and the teaching modules and other things, we took an initiative ourselves, and we tried to organize these these workshops of for giving training to other colleges to set up cost-effective clinical skill labs. And here you can see at various places we did that. And after that, setting up of that, we went on to see that the team building, and it was important that in interprofessional collaborative practices are so important in the health scenario. So we tried to form those teams and develop modules to give them training. And along with that, what we saw that the health professionals of other than medicine, the faculty was not having enough training in teaching and training. So we developed an in-house course that is for HPE professionals. It's a certificate course, and it is going on now. This year we're going to run our 4th batch. And with so many things coming together, what we saw that still there is a scope to go further. So to spread this knowledge and the with the entire team, with the help of the team, we try to now we have registered a society for allied health and healthcare professions and education in India. And from that platform, we are trying to deliver webinars, seminars, and workshops from time to time for not only for our faculty members, but faculty members from across India, whosoever is interested. So now, with this, so many efforts which we all took, and we had a team, and every at every position we tried to give out to the society. We tried to share whatever we had with other colleges and institutes which were not having those facilities. We got recognition by government in form of Scotch award during the pandemic, and recently Era University is now going to train doctors in reducing infant mortality rate, and this is a government project. We are the only private university in Uttar Pradesh that government has given us this opportunity. They have also given us a huge funding, and they would want their health professionals to be trained in our skill lab for this. So now you can see that moving on from, as I said, moving on from follower, becoming a follower, to becoming a manager, trying to manage, and finally now we can say that we are just trying to reach that place of leadership, because it is a journey. And you cannot say that, yes, now I am a leader and I'm done. Because the moment you think that some new thing, some new issue, some new kind of a situation will arrive, and then you will be in a situation where you have to think again and take new decisions and to reach your goals. So this is again just trying to tell you that when pandemic came, since we were having so many teams and so many systems in place, we were able to meet whatever was expected of us, and so that we could teach the students, we could treat our patients, we could look after us, our faculty, our students, our health professionals, so that there is no burnout. They are less, stressed out, and because of that, we were able to perform, better, and we could, hold our ground for whatever we are meant to do. So with this, and during that pandemic, we tried to publish this paper where we were trying to look into the well-being of the students also. So with these words, again, I would like to invite Nima to finish. Thank you.
Let's move from the university to national level. And I would like to tell you our experiences when India decided to change the curriculum, to bring in reforms. And this whole process went from 2010 to 2019. Very Herculean task, but it was possible to complete it because of various things, which I would like to share with you. First of all, the support from number of people, not only our regulators like Medical Council of India, and which later on changed to the National Medical Commission, but various experts, vice chancellor, deans, and even the faculty members working within the institutions. And they changed their role as and when required, from the leaders to managers to the followers. The three processes I can identify in that which helped us is, one, the nationwide faculty development programs, the process of curricular reform, and the curriculum implementation program, which was developed later. So when this nationwide program, that was mainly because of was put forth by the regulators. But the impetus for that was the activities which were going on a decade earlier by the faculty members who had taken some training, and they were doing number of activities in the interest of medical education. There were publication of the papers, there were regional institutes were set up by the paper, which trained the faculty members with some leadership skills. There were conferences were held, international conference, national conference in 2007, and there is a constitution of independent body, Academy of Health Professions Educators, which is by the health profession educators, And continuously, initially 2 yearly and then yearly conferences were held for the people and the other faculty members. There was a network also was developed of all the health professions educator as MU India, mainly to empower the various faculty members associated with that. The network of faculty development also tried to cover, that time we had 355 medical colleges and 17 regional centers were established. And through these regional centers, there were 355 development teams were developed. And then after getting the training, they trained the faculty member in the each colleges. So we could reach to all the faculty members in these colleges. So initially, as I said, there were 17 of the centers, then there was a basic course was there. 5 years later, there was a need to give higher training. So the advanced project-based course was developed. So far we have got 50,000 faculty members trained through that and 3,000 plus faculty members have taken the advanced course. When we came to that process of curriculum reforms, expert consultants were drawn from all. You know that India is such a wide and vast country. So many states and union territories. So the expert consultants from different, almost 22 subjects were drawn and they went through them different data from international data, from national data, and they came out with the contents which are globally relevant, but at the same time, we decided that they should be locally applicable. So the roles were defined for the, and the competencies were defined for the Indian medical graduate, but also subject-specific competencies were interlinked with that. And with this, there are some elements were brought in of CBME, which after giving this framework was given to the individual institution, and the individual institution were given the liberty to transact the curriculum. So with some essential things as a common. And this was all supportive again by the curricular implementation program, for which we use the same faculty development network which was already existing, but various booklets were developed as a resource. And at individual college, there were directions were given for the curricular governance. So individual institution also, there were number of committees were developed, curricular committees or medical education units were involved, so that the followers in different workshops and all, they become the leader in their own institute to transact or implement the curriculum. So what we see over here is the collaborative leadership. We found that there is still attempts are going on, but it was mainly concentrated on the communication, education, and empowering the stakeholders. And there is a continuous review, feedback, refinement, which is going on still with us. So with this, I request Sucheta to talk about the leadership attributes at community.
Thank you, Nima. Let me tell all of you a story. Once upon a time, there were two brothers in a backward village in India. These brothers decided to fulfill their father's dream. At a very young age, they said, our father wants one child to become a farmer and till the land. And he would want another child to become a doctor. And they kept the promise to the father. And we had one son tilling the land, and we had one son becoming a doctor. And that doctor was Dr. Abhay Bang. He got admission into the government medical college in Nagpur and did his medicine. When he did his medicine, he met his wife, Rani Bang there, who went on to do her gynae. And she came from an affluent medical college, from an affluent family, but yet she wanted to go back to the village and practice. And we found that both husband and wife went to Khalapur and started practice there. They stayed for 3 years because what they thought was dispensing medicine and treating the people was enough for the community. But as time went on, they realized, there used to be small issues that would keep coming up in the village. And when they took a stand and asked, wanted to face the government for some compensation, etc., the villagers went against them. In fact, they nearly pelted them with stones. And they said, you go out. This is not what we want to do. We will have nothing to do with all this. And they had to move out that village after 3 years of dispensing medicine. That means somewhere the villagers thought of them as them and the villagers as us. That is a lesson that they learned. But in the same period, they had realized that so much research was going on in the world on malaria, etc. And all the research papers were coming in from abroad. And not a single paper from India of any great value was being seen. So they thought that they should hone their research interests. And they went on to Johns Hopkins and finished their master's in public health. After having done that, they came back to India and went to Gadchiroli, a very laid-back place with a lot of Adivasis there. And they started work. But they worked with the lessons learned. And research that they did over there was published in the Lancet. They published 3 path-breaking papers in the Lancet. And that actually changed the philosophy of the whole world. In fact, the World Health Population, the World Health Organization changed its whole policy from birth control to women's reproductive health. That paper helped them to do it. At the same time, they trained midwives, they trained the housewives, and ultimately they still are there in the village. So what do we see here? They prevented infant mortality, they prevent maternal mortality, alcohol addiction, etc. Their sons also took up the mantle of looking after them, after the villages in Gadchiroli. And they allowed the technogogues to come in. And that is how we have Anand and Rani Bang's children, Amrut and Anand Bang, take over in a way. So surrender, as Dr. Adkoli's paper says, and giving in to the new has been done by the Bangs. What do you find here? That looking back at the 3 papers that we have referred to, that there has been a lot of adaptive leadership as far as the Bangs were concerned. They changed, they adapted, they learned from their mistakes, they did a lot of reflective learning, and they always, at the same time, according to the wellness paper, they had the good of the people in mind, and they had to trust. And finally, to let the new come in, they have surrendered and allowed the new ideas and to come in. And what do we see here because of this? We find that people are that they have got students applying from all over India for their Nirman program and wanting to go and work in the villages. And Anand Bang has become advisor to the government, who will allow people to train in the rural areas. So we would like to conclude here by saying that we must remember that leadership is contextual, and nothing will move unless we have the grit to do it. What do we mean by grit? The grit is a sum total of passion and persistence. Grit is when one has a vision, when a person implements the vision, navigates about policies, and is open to and practices change. That is grit, and that is what we are looking for in all our leaders. Along with that, as Judy McKim's paper said, that there has to be compassion supported by the triangle of trust. And in the trust, you have these three aspects: logic, authenticity, and empathy. Research has shown that when it comes to logic, authenticity, and empathy, most leaders falter in either one of these aspects. And that is when things go wrong. And that is what all leaders have to try and hone. See to it that you are on par with all the three aspects of trust. What do I mean by logic? Logic is when you have no ego, when you ask questions and reflect upon the core values. Empathy is care, building of emotional capital. And research shows that most of the leaders falter back on empathy. When it comes to authenticity, is when you interact with people at the ground level and you take responsibility and not give in to pressures. That is when a good leadership. And that is what I would like to conclude by saying, that leaders are not born, but they are made. With that, we would like to take any questions, or we would also like you to share your experiences as far as leadership. Should I unmute everyone?
You can unmute. Suchita, this is Shabi Zaidi. I'll just show my old face also. Yeah. Thank you, Farzana, Suchita, Nima, all my sisters. You've done an excellent job. Thank you so much. And sincere apologies to all those who could not log in today for whatever reason. It was a technical glitch, basically. And I hope to sort it out. Now, I'd like to read, to initiate the discussion. It's a fascinating subject you touched upon, because academic leadership and leadership of different kinds is something that we want to ponder over in the next session as well. And probably you'll do the kindness of running it further next month or the month after. Gaur Wajid is running a 2-day workshop on leadership in Kuwait. I'd like to read this paragraph from the book that we are publishing on behalf of the SIVU. And I quote, Homer in the Greek epic, you might recognize this writer, the Odyssey, has described a faithful friend of the king, Odysseus. The friend's name was Mentor. When Odysseus left for the Trojan War, he handed over the custody of his son, Telemachus, to his mentor. Mentor was a trusted, more experienced friend who became a counselor and a teacher. Mentor tutored Telemachus beyond the academic subject matters. As time passed, any individual who assisted in the professional or personal development of a person became known as a mentor. My question is, can mentor also be a leader?
Yes. A mentor can also be a leader. Yes, because a mentor is the one who will foster a mentor-mentee relationship. He is the main person who will do, he or she will do that.
And I will like to say that each leader is a mentor person.
Mm-hmm.
So they can be interchangeably used.
So you said that leaders are not born. They develop or cultivate or somehow come into formation over a period of time. But there is a saying that leaders are born, and we see in the history of mankind over the years of 1,000 million years, people who are born after. You gave a wonderful example of Dr. Abe, coming from a very humble background, creating something universal is one example. So could I contest this, that leaders may be born as well as cultivated over time? Because there are some people who are born leaders. They just look for...
In fact, that is what initiated the great man theory.
Yep.
Yes.
So it is important that we should remember that there are leaders who are born leaders and that people who develop into leadership, because see, a lot of people do not get the opportunities. They have the talent, they have the merit, they have the God's gift within them, but they have no opportunities. Once they find the opportunity, they can flourish and prosper and lead the world. So these are my comments and open to debates by other people.
Yeah, but as far as the academic leadership is concerned, there you really have to hone your skills. You have to go through a process. You have to be I said, you have to be a follower, then you have to become a manager at a lower level, and then slowly you move on to that ladder. What I do.
Years ago, when I
You
was
have certain inherent skills of leadership,
but you have to hunt them. You have
but
to
you
hunt
have
them.
to own
Yeah,
them, you have to practice, you have to learn.
absolutely right.
And
I remember
identify.
I remember from my college days, there was a saying written on a professor's wall. I remember still, it was in Farsi. Maybe my Farsi is not that good, but it says, Har keu khidmat karad makhdum shud. That means anyone who serves becomes a master or a pir or a murshid. That means a person who's a murid to begin with eventually ends up as a murshid. That means who serves is served in due course of time. And that's a very good example that Dr. Farzana gave, that for academic leadership, you develop, you hone yourself, and then go through a process of learning. Open to debates to others. I'd like to thank you all on behalf of SIVU, and we'll see you again next week. I'll open it to others who want to talk. Go ahead. Over to the speaker.
So you can put your hand up so that we know who wants to talk.
Suchita, there are lots of chats. If you can go on.
We're trying to answer them.
Yeah.
Professor Farzana, I have one question. I am Professor Mulazim Ansari.
Yes.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you very much. First of all, I am very thankful for such a important topic of the leadership. And I think, in my opinion, I may be right or wrong, leaders are always poor. But there is one important thing that you have mentioned in the lecture. How can a leader improve his self-reflection or self-learning?
Self-learning.
Yes.
Actually, self-learning, as you say, because you have to become, self-aware of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, because every person will have certain strengths and certain weaknesses. So it is, you can try to, build that, do away with that gap. And try to have more knowledge in those areas where you are lacking.
And that is where your emotional EQ will come into play. And
That is at first level, intrapersonal. Understand yourself.
Yeah, definitely we do believe that the leaders have to be, have to have empathy. They should, because good leaders who think from the heart, and it is for the benefit of larger, for the community and others. Ultimately, they are the ones who succeed.
Thank you for that. And we have a hand up by Dr. Fahad Azam.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor.
Yes,
thank you so much, Professor Suchita, Professor Farzana. I actually asked my question in the chat box that what could be a suitable way to inculcate leadership qualities in medical students, especially with so much content and time constraints? So that was my question.
Answer?
yes.
Yeah, as far as the students are concerned, because in the curriculum also, like what we are following, there are different levels, because in their own classrooms they can become,
Actually, we should
representatives.
use adult learning principles, self-directed
learning, and if they can be made in charge, of their whole, batches, their groups, they become leaders and they can find out what problems they are facing, and they can start with communication between the faculty and their peers. And along the way, as they will move upwards, and into the clinical settings in the hospitals, they have given enough, things, they have said that let the students organize camps. So once you give them this opportunity, tell them to, once they start going into the community, they can go into the community, look for what problems are there, along with the faculty, of course. They can form a team, and that team has to be amongst various health professionals, because for a camp, they will need a nurse, and maybe, so the team building, the trying organizational capacities, and trying to lead your peers, and so on and so forth. This is what I believe, and this is the way in which we are trying to, train our students in
Actually,
a way.
even
The undergraduates.
communication skills,
Communication
and,
skills.
professional
project work which is given to them at various levels.
There are so many aspects, and somewhere I think we should treat them as adults. Don't treat them as kindergarten or as primary school children, where all the time you are. Let them be at times. Okay, if they have not, I don't know. My thinking may be a little lateral, but I also feel sometimes that if they've not been able to attend college because they were studying on their own, all right, so be it. But find out whether it's really the case or whether they are lying, because you know how our students can.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the answers. Yeah.
We couldn't hear you, Dr. Azam.
Yeah, I was saying thank you so much for the answer.
Well, madam, this is Dr. Mateen. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, hello,
Hello,
Dr.
Dr. Mateen.
Actually, this is a question I think I should have asked, that do you foresee any medical leadership as a competency to be developed in a program like CVME? Because we're good medical leaders.
Related to leadership.
One of the goals is
If you
where
go-
to be communicator, mission.
So
leader,
amongst those 30,
leader.
amongst those 32 competencies which are there for the 5 roles, there are competencies related to the
Leaders. And in fact, we have all
It
of
is
them
in the
spelled out
first column.
in the National Medical Commission volume that is there. Leader is one of the 5 in India. And in fact, all over.
All
In the
over.
first lecture, first slide
slide,
that
yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Farzana showed, we showed that right from American Association, the National Health Services of the UK, Australian Medical Council, and everyone has a leader as one of that.
The leadership qualities as a competency.
Yes,
Yes, as a competency.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So is there anyone?
Chat.
So we have some questions, in the chat, we have some, let me open the chat and we will take the chat from here. Okay? Someone says, no, Fahad, we have answered. Does leadership parameters differ among basic medical students and clinical ones? Not really. Not really. Actually, they should not.
Yeah, and we discussed with you those common features in those 3 articles, but those are the ones which are common to every leadership.
It's not just the clinician. Anyone else? I thought I heard someone speak.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. This is Saleha Jafri from Liberal Arts.
Yes, Aleha, tell us.
Ma'am, excellent talk. It is always very informative to attend this session. What I have learned after attending CCHP and now this, whatever the topic is, whether it is for medical or others, if you have a good intellect, because recently I read an article on social intelligence and academic intelligence. And that very well illustrates that if you are academically very intelligent, the social intelligence is not there, you are never able to compact things in under one roof, and never able to think in a very different manner. So as you just now, Nima ma'am took one model, S5 model. And in that, it was the first thing, that self-awareness. To be a good leader, I feel that always there is one very important thing. You can grow self-aware not only by learning things, but also communicating very nicely with your own self. That brings a lot of clarity, and then you process. And second, the leadership is not that when you are given an authority to lead somewhere, then only you are a leader. When you work in a team, in a group, you work as solo performer. If you have those skills, high level skills, these are, so you can always be a leader anywhere you are.
And remember always EQ and IQ.
Yes, ma'am.
You should have a high emotional quotient as well as, of course.
That is one of the basic balance you need to know, that how to balance your EQ, IQ, SQ, everything.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
So
People around you are very, very important.
Yes.
So Suchita, there is a chat here, very interesting. What models of evaluation did you use for faculty development on leadership skills? Can you elaborate? It's a comment, it's a chat from Tara.
Yeah. Sir, we have that leadership skill, the faculty development program, which we had in India. We have used the Kirkpatrick's model mainly. But when it was famous, they have taken the program evaluation with a mix of models. It was not one single model. They looked into the processes also. They looked into the outcomes, what the people are doing. They looked into the context. So number of things were taken into consideration. In for this basic course and advanced course, what we are using, we mainly use the Kirkpatrick's, but we are also looking into the processes which are going on along with it, and they are submitted as a feedback to previously to Medical Council of India and now National Medical Commission. So these regional centers and nodal centers, they have frequent meetings with the regulatory bodies.
And of course, getting feedback and then telling people about what the feedback is all about.
Yes.
We have Dr. Abida Shani, who has her hand up. Dr. Abida, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's Dr. Abda Shaheen from Pakistan. So thank you very much for your brilliant talk, and listening to the leadership. You know, it's always very inspiring. But I do believe that, as Dr. Zaidi, he very rightly said, that I somehow believe in that phrase, that somehow leaders, they are born leaders. And they have some specific attributes outright from the beginning, which they manifest at certain point in their life. Okay, so I want to ask that leadership and management, they both are very independent concepts. But somehow in today's world, leadership and management roles, they have become so much mixed, especially when there is so much emphasis on the teamwork. So do they really need to be isolated in this today's world, in this modern era? Because I believe that the managers, they need to have leadership qualities and vice versa to perform their tasks. And number two, in our students, when we emphasize too much on the teamwork, that they in the modern competency-based education, outcome-based education, or in integrated curriculum, we so much emphasize on the teamwork. So in our students, is it important to more infuse managerial skills to manage, to work with each other in teams, to manage the team task, or to become a leader? Because obviously one has to be leader and other has to follow the leader, and to work in team. And with this thing, I think that the leadership role, they have become so much changed in this modern world. So I want to ask that. Thank you so much.
True. Agreed. We have Dr. Nasir Javaid, who would like to say something.
Thank you for the presenters. Thank you for SIVU for this nice webinar. Really, my question, as a leader, how can engage the member of faculty whenever there is changes? Especially, we are now facing the changes in the curriculum from the traditional to the integrated and all the new matter, especially when the leader is young age and the faculty member elderly, They are stick for the previous mind, they stick for the traditional. All the time till that we are in the traditional, we give a good doctor and we generate many years on the traditional. I want your opinion, how the leader can encourage every person in his faculty, from his faculty, to improve the vision of him and improve the vision of the committee of him. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very, very important question. And all of us as leaders or as team members, everybody faces this kind of a challenge. As you know that in India also in 2019, we introduced CPME curriculum. And so it was a big challenge for all of us. So as you know that whenever there is a change, all of a sudden no one can change. The change takes, time. So what we always try to do is we try to rope in, first of all the young faculty members, and we try to train them, and we try to build that, confidence in them that yes, this is the way to go forward. And once they become, trained, they try to take forward some of the aspects of the program forward. Meanwhile, all the elderly people who have their knowledge and their experience, which the young faculty is not having, they carry on with some part of the work. And slowly, it takes time, and a time comes when they also start agreeing, once they start seeing the changes. So they also try to come up, and be part of the team.
I'll tell you.
This is, we have seen.
One more thing, one more aspect
sure.
I would like to bring in here. We used to constantly find that the people who didn't want people to come for the basic training course, etc., the heads, or the senior professors. What we did was slowly by, in tandem, we would call them as chief guest or guest of honor for our own function. Give them a flower and say thank you for coming, and they would feel very nice and good, and then we would say, sir, why don't you sit in the back and just see what we are doing? And
thank you.
Slowly brought a mind change in the mindset of all these seniors also. Then they said, Acha, abhi jana hai? Okay, please go. To the next batch of faculty who wanted to come for the course. Otherwise, there was a lot of resistance. And see, whenever change is needed, resistance will always happen. You want to do any small thing also, there will be resistance. And that is the fun, isn't it? In the life.
Thank you. This is a nice trick. Thank you a lot.
Yeah,
got a lot of converts.
I had a similar experience when I was a young Turk at Dow Medical College, and I'd started the campaign of clinical integrated curriculum. My cousin used to be a professor of anatomy. He was a very senior person, almost like mentor. So one of the academic councils, when I said that we invited WHO consultant to come and guide us about the integrated teaching, it was a new thing. And those days we were working on a project called Community Oriented Medical Education, or COME. It was very long way back in 1970s. Now, this gentleman who was an expert in anatomy, he got so furious with me, and he started fighting with me in the academic council that you were born only yesterday and now you're trying to teach me how to teach. You have no right. You want to deprive me of my bread and butter? I said, no, I'm not doing that. It's just that we have to change with times. Times have changed. But the point I'm making is that always, this is what the academic leadership is all about. You have to bring the young force into your confidence, not the old lot. The old lot is rigid. It's inflexible. So the concentration of the leadership, we should target the younger population who can change with time.
Yes, Dr. Zadi, this is what actually I did. We made under, coordinators from each department for UG curriculum and coordinators for PG curriculum. These were young faculty members who were working between us and the head of the department and trying to
this is
roll
a
out
good
the
idea. It's a good idea to invite the senior citizens as the chief guest or guest of honor, or even better to make an effigy and just let the statue sit there in their place. Now, one final comment. One thing that we should remember in the Iran conference that we just had, ICHP, there was a wonderful talk about student engagement. Now, part of academic leadership, I think, in the future is going to be the student, and that is the post-pandemic education that we're seeing. Student engagement is vital because, as you pointed out, there's pedagogy and there's andragogy and heterogogy and now technagogy and what have you. We should believe more in andragogy than simple pedagogy. These are adults, they are mature students. I mean, I know in England, for example, the students who come, they come with the background in philosophy at the A levels, ethics at A levels. I mean, we didn't know about these things. So we should engage as students, never underestimate them. The talent and the caliber they bring in now, the present generation is amazing. And I believe that part of the academic leadership is to engage the students right from day one in planning, activity, actions, and give them tasks. Like we did in the UK during the pandemic when we were short of staff, we invited our youngest students to go to health centers as vaccinators or as maybe help at the reception. So student engagement is a part of academic leadership. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So if there are no more questions and there are no more hands up, should we, with the permission of, let me see, there's one in the chat who says, thank you so much, Dr. Zaidi. Dr. Zaidi, your comments are very well appreciated. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for encouraging all of us.
Yes.
You, in a way, let me say, without sounding very pompous, are a great leader.
Yes, thank you. Totally agree.
I'm only a humble student. I'm the lifelong learner. I always sit at the teachers' feet like yourselves. I mean, you're the teachers, you're the mentors, you're the leaders. I'm only a humble student. I join these activities to learn. I tell you, every day I'm learning new things. It's amazing. And I was telling Dr. Hassan Zaidi earlier on, one life is not enough. If I were to be born again, I promise to be a good student.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And
Thank you all.
night.
Should we close this meeting?
Yes, thank you so much. And we look forward to having you again in June.
Yes.
And hopefully then we won't have that technical glitch, but this video will be available shortly in a week or 10 days time. So
thank you,
on behalf of SIVU, I'd like to thank you. Farzana, you're always so kind, generous, and like in my not younger sister, but elder sister.
Oh.
Sita is my younger sister, so all of you are my sisters. I'm so grateful. Grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. And we'll meet again next week, next month.
Inshallah, next month.
Thank you, and God bless you all.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.